In mid-2025, the Philippines and the United States finalized a high-profile bilateral agreement during Philippine President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s visit to Washington, D.C. That deal significantly reshaped their economic and strategic relationship. Although the headline focused largely on a trade pact with adjusted tariffs, where Philippine exports to the U.S. face a 19% rate while U.S. goods enter the Philippines tariff-free. The implications are far broader and deeply geopolitical. Philippine officials framed the agreement as preserving market access and forestalling steeper U.S. tariffs, while boosting cooperation on investment and security. American leaders described it as part of a broader strategy to open Asian markets to U.S. products while countering China's regional influence. Economic dimensions, trade and investment shifts. Tariff terms and trade flows. The core economic pillar of the agreement was the zero tariff on U.S. exports to the Philippines paired with a 19% tariff on Philippine goods entering the U.S. While the Philippines did secure a slightly lower rate than earlier U.S. threats, critics said the terms remain asymmetric. This structure is likely to reshape incentives for both economies. U.S. exporters gain enhanced access to a Southeast Asian market, boosting sectors like agriculture, soy, wheat, pharmaceuticals, and autos. Philippine producers face stronger competitive pressure in the U.S. market, especially in electronics, semiconductors, and agricultural goods, potentially pushing producers to innovate or diversify markets. Investment and growth incentives. Beyond tariffs, the Washington visit delivered major investment pledges. Philippine authorities reported over $21 billion in U.S. investment commitments spanning infrastructure, healthcare, semiconductors, digital technology, and renewable energy. These pledges are expected to generate jobs and strengthen industrial capacity. Joint projects like the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment Corridor, supported by U.S. agencies and allies like Japan, aim to enhance connectivity in the Philippines, a key factor for long-term economic competitiveness. Security and defense, a deepening alliance. Historical foundations. The Philippines has been a U.S. security ally since the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, which obligates both nations to defend each other in the event of external armed attack. Over decades, this alliance has adapted to shifting threats, most recently China's assertiveness in the South China Sea. Enhanced cooperation. Security cooperation under the pact has included expanded joint military exercises, such as the annual Balikatan drills, symbolizing interoperability and deterrence readiness. These exercises involve land, sea, air, and increasingly advanced joint training scenarios. The 2014 Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, already permits rotational deployments of U.S. forces and construction of facilities on Philippine bases. Under President Marcos Jr., EDCA projects and the rotational presence have been reinforced to respond to natural disasters and strategic challenges alike. Regional security cooperation. The Philippines has also aligned with other U.S. partners, such as Japan and Australia, to form broader multilateral security frameworks that focus on deterrence and operational readiness amid rising popular concern about Chinese actions in contested maritime zones. In November 2025, Manila, Washington, Tokyo and Canberra publicly backed the establishment of an Indo-Pacific Chiefs of Defense Cooperation Council to bolster combined planning, information sharing and joint training. Regional and global strategic impact. Countering China's rise. China's growing maritime assertiveness, especially around the South China Sea, has been a primary driver of the Philippines' strategic pivot toward the U.S. and other democracies. The U.S.-Philippine Agreement sits within a wider U.S. strategy to strengthen alliances across the Indo-Pacific, aiming to deter coercive behavior and ensure freedom of navigation. For Manila, deeper cooperation with Washington and other democracies like Japan and Australia helps balance China's military and economic weight, reassuring domestic and regional audiences concerned about sovereignty and territorial integrity. Economic diversification and supply chains. Beyond security, This agreement nudges the Philippines into wider economic networks anchored by U.S. and allied market access. Infrastructure and technology investments, particularly in semiconductors and clean energy, align with broader global supply chain diversification strategies. This reduces regional dependence on China and enhances economic resilience. Multilateral dynamics. The pact also signals broader geopolitical recalibration. ASEAN nations are watching closely as the Philippines leans into Western alliances, prompting others, like Indonesia and Vietnam, to pursue calibrated engagement with both the U.S. and China to safeguard autonomy while accessing trade and security benefits. Domestic responses and challenges. Political debate in the Philippines. The deal triggered domestic debate. Some lawmakers and civic groups expressed concerns about transparency, particularly regarding potential impacts on local farmers and small producers who could face competition from cheap imports. At the same time, proponents within the government highlighted the strategic value of expanded foreign investment, job creation, and enhanced defense cooperation. Balancing sovereignty with strategic gains. Critics, especially from left-leaning groups, argue that deeper ties with the U.S. risk entangling the Philippines in broader great power rivalries, potentially compromising sovereign decision-making. Supporters counter that strong alliances are vital for national security and economic development in a competitive geopolitical environment. A transformative pivot point. The Philippines' approval of this major agreement with the United States marks a strategic inflection point with consequences reaching well beyond Manila and Washington. Economically, it opens U.S. markets to Philippine consumers while reshaping trade incentives and investment flows. Militarily, it strengthens regional deterrence in an era of intensifying great power competition. Regionally, it reinforces the Philippines' role as a key Indo-Pacific partner for the U.S. and allied democracies. And globally, it reflects the enduring importance of alliances in shaping strategic balances. Ultimately, whether this agreement delivers sustained benefits depends on how it adapts to evolving economic conditions, security challenges, and domestic priorities. Not only for the Philippines and the United States but for the broader architecture of peace and prosperity across Asia and beyond.